Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Young Justice, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Sarah Potter, and today I'm joined by Dylan Hysen.
Hello.
And Allie Martin.
Hey.
We're going to be talking about the 19th episode of Young Justice today, Elder Wisdom. Episode 19 of Young Justice Outsiders, Elder Wisdom. But before we get into that, you can find more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes or on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. Dylan, what'd you think about this episode?
I really liked Elder Wisdom. This season feels a lot better now, I think, than maybe the first week after it came back or at times in part one. I still think the show is good at those times, but I think the big difference is this season is flowing now. Like this episode, a lot was happening and a lot culminated in just kind of this random mid-season episode. I think that's like a really good sign. You know, we're not dragging out a lot of stuff like this Brion confrontation. We're continuing this, I guess, hiding stuff from the Outsiders line. We're continuing the Outsiders like existing and doing stuff. I don't know. This just feels like almost like a different show, honestly, than the first third half into 2/3 of this Young Justice Outsiders. I liked what it was before, but this is like, I think the show's going to be a lot more palatable now to a lot of people, because it's just a lot more cohesive and like a normal show. There's still a lot of random people in this episode, but it was at a much more normal pace. I like this episode felt very modern. That's another aspect. There's a lot of technology and modern themes going on. I mean, we also use terms like the dark web and fake news in this episode. I was thrown off by the dark web mention. I want to break that down, but we could. But yeah, I think like the hiding of information and the staging things, the manipulation of public opinion, I think these are things that are very relevant to modern times, and I do think they're tapping into a lot of themes that resonate in the present. So I think this episode works on a few different levels.
Yeah, that's really interesting because this episode definitely feels like a different show to me too. But I'll get into that after we get Allie's opinion. Allie, what did you think of this episode?
Well, it definitely feels like they're getting to the more, I don't want to say darker side of the plot because it's been kind of dark since the beginning, but at least like seeing more of Lex Luthor just kind of makes it seem like they're moving along faster. Just Outsiders, sad. I own hotels in many countries.
Oh yeah, sad, and yeah.
I forgot they did sad.
Yeah, they did sad and own hotels.
And I own many countries. No, not many countries, but many hotels, you know.
Yeah.
The modern thing, I mean, it's always been there, but every time they use, you know, like the news casting or whatever, it's cringy, but in a good way, if that makes sense.
It's cringy because it's real.
Exactly, yeah. But I really appreciate when shows do that because I don't think it happens enough. But the other thing that I can really pinpoint about this is last podcast we were talking about Halo/Violet and her need to go to therapy, and I'm glad something actually happened this episode because I was kind of hoping for it, but I can't say I expected them to be confident with her for a while, so I'm glad they actually cleared that up for the most part.
Yeah, they really called it out this episode. Like, they just said, like, yeah, we're Violet, you need to, like, sit this out until we actually talk about it, because this is getting crazy. And I think I really appreciated that specifically.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I liked this episode too. I liked, like Dylan said, I think this is just a different show. It's just like the team. When I say the team now, I know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, there's also the team that's not our team, but I think they're still called the team.
But I mean, like, if I say the team, like, I'm talking about the Outsiders, I'm talking about Garfield's team,
You should not call it that on the podcast. I do think the old Young Justice people are called the team. Yeah.
I know, but I'm saying, like, when I'm just, like, shorthand, I can shorthand.
We have a group of heroes.
That is the main
that is like, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're the Outsiders. I'm gonna say that through the podcast, but I mean, like, when I'm, like, just speaking about it, like, in times not like this, like, it's clear who I'm talking about now, because there is a core group that is doing things, and this felt very season 1, honestly, to me, in a good way.
Yeah.
It felt very much like the team is doing stuff, the league is doing stuff above them, and then there's like this third level of what's going on with the villains at the same time, and I think it went really well this episode. And there was also all that family drama that we haven't even touched on with the parents, which I think there's a couple of parts that were a little bit, awkwardly written, but I do like the sentiment of doing it this way. And obviously I'm really happy we did Violet stuff. But, yeah, I guess we'll just dig right into that then, because we only have one episode, so we can really dig into this episode, I guess. I guess the big thing to talk about would be Violet. Do we want to start there, or do we just want to go beat by beat through the episode?
I don't know if Violet was like the biggest thing in the episode, but she's our biggest thing, I feel like.
Well, that's what I mean.
maybe
Like,
the
the biggest thing to
satisfying
talk about.
thing,
Do we
but-
want to start with that, or do we want to just go beat by beat?
We could talk about Violet. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of satisfying things with Violet at the same time she dies again.
Yeah, let's just start with Violet then, because like I think that kind of also goes through most of the plot points that are in the episode, anyways. Like Violet starts off in this like assassination attempt, and she gets killed again. And honestly, this one was the one that made me cringe the most, because it's just like she gets her neck slit or throat slit when she's trying to defend Terra, and it's really messed up.
It's just so unnecessary.
And in a later scene, she actually has problems speaking, like her throat is sore. Like, I don't know, like they're really playing this up that she's...
Why can't you just show her getting a paper cut?
I know.
I'm being legitimately serious. Like, she could get injured, but it doesn't have to be life-threatening.
Yeah.
Why is it always life-threatening?
Well, I guess this one she's purposely putting her life in danger because she's like depressed and not handling things well that she's dying, right? Like she's.
But this would work better if we hadn't had her die a bunch of times before now.
Right. Okay. I want to
That
present
would've
an
been-
alternate opinion on the her dying a lot of times thing, because that has been rightfully trashed, I think, many times on this podcast, that Violet dies all the time, and I do think it's like very problematic. I think it's a very effective narrative device. I understand why they keep doing it. Even in this episode for like the 5th time, it was still very effective. Like Sarah said, like it's like, and they do the music cue and it's like, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is the first time that she died and then came back to life. I think it was in the 3rd episode of this. I think that episode was so incredible, and that was such a fantastic moment. And then they do kind of, I mean, you could say they ruin it by keep doing it. It takes away from the effect of that incredible first time. But it's really effective to me every single time. I'm not even trying to like make an intellectual argument with it. Just like the way I react watching the episode, it really is an effective device. So, I think this time it was not as big of a moment. It was like more of a quick thing. And I think they understand that it's like the 5th time it's happened. And, and this time it also, I guess, had a character motivation, so you could argue this is the best one of all the 5 times, but that's stupid. Yeah, that's a weird thing to be saying. This is the best time Violet's died out of all those times, you know?
I mean, it's the only time that really makes sense, except for the first time.
Yeah, I think that, you could give me this one, give me the first one, all the rest, you know, I feel like those were less, those were more just for the fact that it's an effective thing, not for any specific reason, I feel like.
I think the other 3 should have just been her getting hurt in some way.
I don't know that it's 5, by the way. That's a fake.
Yeah, no, I don't know the exact number either, because she dies so much.
Probably.
But I mean, like, she could have just been hurt the other times. Like, she got like a really intense burn, and that'd still be upsetting, but it wouldn't be like, you're stabbing Violet through the chest again.
Right.
Like, I think, I agree with you though, Dylan. I think this scene works well with where Violet is as a character right now, and I think it works well in terms of like, it goes fast. It's just, again, like you said, it's still problematic. It's still frustrating that this is just the punching bag for the show. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we need to harp on that anymore, though, than that.
Yeah,
We
but
talked
I
about
think the good part is they're doing interesting things with her character right now.
Yeah, which I want to really get into.
The good part is that she finally talked to somebody.
Yeah. So, like, I touched on it earlier, but, after this mission in Bunasa, I hope I pronounced that right, Bunasa, this made up country.
It's no right pronunciation, it's fake, so it's...
Well, I know. But I'm sure someone will be like, they said it like this in the show.
I don't remember.
But yeah, after this mission, Megan speaks with Violet and tells her like, hey, you still haven't talked about why you were arrested. You haven't talked about a lot of stuff until you talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be me. Like, you're grounded essentially.
Honey,
And
you need help.
what was that, Allie?
Honey, you need help.
Yeah.
Get a doctor.
Yeah. And honestly, I think this is one of the best Megan moments of the season. Like, it's her, like, honestly being a good role model and being a good mentor to this team. And, cause there's a lot of questionable things they're doing behind the team's back, but this is just like Megan being, like, genuinely good and caring and being like, hey, you don't realize that this isn't good what you're doing. And I appreciated this, and I appreciate this forced moment on Violet to think about how she's feeling.
I'm also glad it was Megan and not, Brienne.
Yes.
So I was kind of afraid they were going to go that route.
Oh yeah, it's so good that this is Megan. I really, if it was Brienne, it would feel like, I don't know, it would feel off, but this just feels so right, because Megan has been there at every one of the moments that Violet has kind of like...
Had a struggle.
Yeah, she's been there, because there's a lot of moments where Violet is alone with just women because of her... I almost said religion, but it's not religion. You know what I mean, because of her thing with just wanting to be alone around women more than men, just because of the sort of Muslim stuff, but not really, according to last episode.
Let's not start with that.
What do you mean stop with that, Dylan? That's what they did.
I said let's not with that.
I'm not trying to. I'm just lost in the wordage of what to say. That's all.
Well, yeah. Also,
because she is just uncomfortable with men because of that incident.
I think that might also be true. Like, I think there might also be a little bit of that. But what I'm trying to say is just I like that it's Megan. I do like that. Did you?
I think Dr. J should be talking.
Oh, she's a shady hoe. She's not going to do anything.
Does McGann know about her dying?
No, nobody knows except Jace and Dr. Jace, and I think that this
Dr.
episode...
Jace should understand that it's going to affect her a lot, and do more things.
I think Dr. Jace, this episode, gives the best evidence that she's evil, because she's like, I have a mentor, and it's like, who's your mentor? Like, who's...
Science mentor.
But evil science mentor.
It's definitely like Savage or something. Like, it's or Lex Luthor or something. Like, it's not like...
Dr. Jace is not evil. I'm gonna die on this hill, okay?
She's definitely
Wait, what if
evil.
it's Lena? Is Lena in this show?
She's not, I don't think she's been in the show yet.
It is notable that, like I said, like, you'd think Dr. Jace would be more active, considering that she knows what Violet is going through. That's like the one thing I'm like, they're doing something with this.
Exactly.
Maybe it's that she's evil. I feel like that it's not that. The thing is that they already did an evil fake out with Dr. Jace. If we can remember back to January, that was the entire like concept of her character, is that, oh, she's the evil scientist who's doing the metagene experiments. Oh no, actually she's good.
But it's like a
double agent.
Like, they'd have to do the same story beat with her. I feel confident they're not going to do that again.
I hope so, because it's just, I don't know what they're setting up, and this evil obviously is like, it is just the clearest signal here. It's
easiest thing.
It's the easiest thing to see out of this. And maybe there is more, because I mean, also, that means that Tara and Dr. Jace have the same heel turn coming up, which also just is kind of weird.
I also hope Tara is not... Tara in this episode has like 20 seconds, like, like looking around, disoriented, and after learning the news from Violet, and then texts an update to the light, right? So this is, I don't know what this means for the is she evil.
But I think it's an interesting, I know we're getting off Violet here, but I think that filter for what she's seeing is actually like a pretty cool device to use, honestly, to show like she's kind of fraying. I think it went on a little too long, but I actually liked it a fair bit.
It's tough when that's all we get.
Yeah, I agree.
I do like that if I understood really what we're going for, but we're purposefully hiding information with her in terms of like, I mean, I don't think hiding information is wrong. I think like she's torn, I guess, to a certain extent. I mean, she's clearly like cooperating with the evil people, but I think that we're also doing the thing where she's learning that the good guys are good. And so she's going through a thing, but it's the lack of nuance. There's not a lot here to dig into with her.
And I think part of the issue is, again, we're still off Violet for a second here, but I think part of the issue is that they're making this show, it feels like, predominantly for people who know DC stuff, who know what Tara's story is usually. Like I was talking about last week, what it is with the Slade stuff and the Judas contract and her plot from Teen Titan. And it almost feels like they're playing up what people know Tara is usually at the expense of what Tara is in this show. If that makes sense. Like,
I would love if they were like playing with audience expectations. And I mean, the thing you have to do with that is then make her not turn in the end.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's great. I agree that would be like potentially at the expense of the character within the show here, but I think it's worth it if they do something, because this is such a familiar, even to me. I'm like very much not a DC person. I'm familiar with what's happening here, so it would be really good to play with it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if they're doing it this way, it makes sense that she's not going to do a heel turn. If she does a heel turn, it makes no sense what they've been doing so far. Like,
I mean, I think there's like she still turns but and ... like what, like, you know, like what, there's something that goes along with it. Like there's some sort of asterisk with what she's doing, or some result of what she does that maybe makes sense with what we're seeing, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. Like if it's just like she turns evil and she goes sides with Slade or Deathstroke and she just betrays him again exactly like in Teen Titans, I don't know why we spent this season with her like this. Like it doesn't really make sense in my head. Why they would, I don't know. It just feels strange. But let's get back to Violet, 'cause that's much more interesting to me. Because we finally get the talk between Violet and Brion, and we have Brion saying like, hey, we have to talk, you're not talking to me. And he's actually, in this scene, I think he's really understanding of Violet. He knows that she's going through stuff, and he's actually like, not being, I think, accusatory of her. Like, he knows, like, he's not being like, you're not answering my text, he's just being like, you're hurt and I want to talk to you and I want to help you. And I think that's probably the most sympathetic Brion's been, like, for me, the entire show, honestly, when he talks to Violet before she reveals the stuff to him.
So, first of all, Brion has always been sympathetic because he's my prince and, he's amazing. So, let's not with that. But, this was from the one Beatrice is on. We were fighting about his eyebrows, okay, right? So,
well, I'm glad you two realize the beauty.
Beatrice did not. She was.
Oh, well.
I stand. Okay.
Yeah, Dylan stands.
So do I. So I'm with you.
Thank you. Yay. Beautiful prince. Like,
it's also
so
Troy Baker, so I have to stand.
I think like his reaction to Violet saying like I kissed someone else. Okay, let's ignore the.
Oh, I haven't even gotten to that. I'm talking about before that, Dylan. I haven't gotten to that, but
that he texts her a lot of things, and he's like, I forgot the stupidest thing he texted her, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I didn't read all the texts were pretty good, but I'm just talking about like the conversation before Halo revealed these secrets to him. Like, he's actually pretty understanding. Like, he's not going like, oh, you're not answering my text, you're not like talking. Like, he's just like, hey, there's something up, and I know you need to talk about it. Like, you can't just run from this. Like, I'm here for you. I want to talk to you. It's not like this. It definitely comes from a place of like, I want to help. Like, I want to talk to you, and it doesn't come off as like, hey, why aren't you talking to me? And
I think that continues into what I was saying, that it's the same thing. Like, he's very understanding and sympathetic, and honestly, like, between that and, I think it's the same thing. Like, his girlfriend hasn't really been responding, and you know, and then she says, I kissed someone else, and, he has one of the most reasonable, and I feel like realistic reactions to that I've ever seen in media, honestly. Like, it's always like a big freak out, and he's like,
done so well.
He's like, did it mean anything? And she's like, no, she's just afraid. It's like, okay, I forgive you. I'm like, I feel like this is always a big dramatic blow up and shit. Like, this was, I mean, it would be understandable if he would make it that, you know, he's allowed to react however he wants if she says she kissed someone else. But, honestly, I feel like this, you know, I feel like cheating in terms of kisses is always like, I always feel when I'm watching, like, you know, it's not that big of a deal, right? Like, I understand, I'm not going to judge anyone for feeling like it is a big deal. Everyone's entitled to that. But, I also feel like a lot of people would react like Brion and be like, okay, if it didn't mean anything, if it emotionally was nothing, then it's okay. If it was just a kiss, and she, you know, she kissed her, and it was, I think he was just very quick and understanding and had her interests at heart, and it was a great look for him. Also, I just think even though it was a quick scene, I do think, you know, the nuance that's lacking in several areas. I feel like this was a fairly nuanced emotional scene.
Yeah, I think I really do. Brion, I think, is like A+ for most of this episode. Like, I really appreciate the emotions he's showing. Unfortunately, right after this is when Violet tells them about, like, essentially Gabriella killing their parents.
So to this, as rational as his response was to the kiss, I don't understand this like,
yeah,
the kiss does not matter. Also, this does not matter. Like,
because you never
said it didn't matter.
But no, it's not Violet. He even says that. He says,
yeah.
I thought he just walked out of the room.
No, he was mad.
He's emotionally grappling with it, which is fine. Like, obviously this is a big thing to take in. the person you are with, the person who looks like them is the one that led to your parents' death. I mean, even if you can disassociate the two people that inhabited the body, it's still, I could still see him needing a few minutes to react to it. I think it's less like his reaction, how the episode handles it. We don't come back to this, right?
Yeah,
like
the episode sets it up to be like a big thing.
Like maybe 5 minutes later he comes back in and they're like, it's fine. But
I think that's what's going to happen next episode. I think he's going to walk into the room and say, I want to talk again, and she's going to be gone.
The problem is she's writing a letter at the end of the episode. And
Brio and I'm dying by...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Presumably she's just going to leave. I assume that generally when people write letters alone, climactically at the end of episodes, they leave after that.
In this episode, it's like almost like a suicide note, though, because she's saying, I'm dying.
That's also a possibility. It could be a real suicide note that, she's struggling.
Think about that. That would be fucking dark.
But like my issue with
also
this,
really can't really kill herself.
Yeah, and everything we talked
about. The show
would
do that plotline though.
Yeah, it would. It would. Like we might start next episode and she's like just standing on top of a building.
Yeah, I really hope they don't show her trying to kill herself 5 times.
And like she keeps getting regenerated and she keeps trying to kill herself. Like okay, okay.
You weren't satisfied with the first 5 deaths, like.
Oh my god! What if she's just like okay?
I feel like I've seen that from a show before, like that someone can't kill themselves. I feel like that's a thing.
Have you watched The Misfits?
I don't know if it's I'm for thinking of that, but
okay. But it's a UK show with superpowers, so one of the characters can't die. And
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that's off topic. But I think there's a lot of interesting ways we can go with Violet, and I'm really excited to go that direction. But other than that, like I wanted to ask if you guys felt like a little bit icky about how like Violet has like these 3 things to talk about with Brienne, and she puts them all together, and the 3 things are, I killed your parents, I'm gonna die, and I kissed a girl. Like those feel like 2 really big things, and one thing that, like, it is
did she tell him she's dying?
No, she did not. But I'm just saying those are the 3 things she flashes back to. And I think for her character, those are the 3 biggest things in her life right now, and I agree. But from a show perspective, like, you're showing 2 really bad things, and one thing that really isn't that bad, that you shouldn't be framing the same way.
Well, that's the thing. She told him in the right order, with the least traumatic news.
Yeah, I mean, but what the show's clearly, I think what the show's intending is it's not I kissed a girl, it's I kissed someone else. That's why I phrased it like that. That's what the show wants. It's just bad optics that it's the.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's like why is this the gay kiss you give us? Like you were talking about last week, like they give us. I will give them credit for showing it again on screen, even if it's like in a bad context.
Why?
Because it's like such a struggle to get any sort of gay kiss on kids animated shows. The problem is it's not a kids animated show anywhere, and it's in like an independent network. That's why they can do this. But yeah, repeating it is actually pretty daring. But it is in like a context of it being a bad thing, which is blech.
But I mean, yeah, and the thing is like, I think you covered it. I don't think we need to talk about it more. But I think they did cover it really well. I think it was good. It's just unfortunate framing, like you said.
They're handling the storyline well. It's just like you shouldn't have chose the storyline to be the show's first queer kiss. Yes. Just choose a different storyline.
Yeah. And if there were like 2 already this season before now, I don't think I'd care about this. Like I wouldn't find this bad.
Yeah.
Anyways, was there anything else you want to talk about Violet? 'Cause I think we dug into her. I don't know if there's anything else really to talk about. We talked about Tara's reaction with that.
I wish she told Brienne she was dying. I wish she really emotionally opens up with him. I wish he's not going to run away now. I do think it's an interesting dramatic plot line. I hope the show can give Violet a happy ending after how they mistreated her so much.
I just realized she didn't tell him that she was not banned, but benched from the team. So
I think everyone knows, because I don't know. I feel like that would be something known to the team.
Probably.
I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. It's like if the show does give Violet a happy ending. I mean, there's another season. By the way, season 4 was announced of the show.
Oh, yes.
This podcast and this podcast, which is really big news, I think, for all the Young Justice fans after we struggled to get this season that much. But yeah, I mean, it's like if we actually give Violet a happy ending this season, is it okay that we went through everything we went through with her? Probably not, but it would be an interesting discussion.
Yeah. But I think, I disagree though. I really love that she's running away because I don't know, what I realized when I know she's running away is that she can boom tube anywhere. We could have like a Violet alone episode where she could be just going across the universe by herself.
On bars.
They're not gonna do it, but that's what I imagine Like, that would be the crazy thing I would do with it.
The
like,
show cannot have and the show cannot even have a 5-character focused episode. It
I
can
know,
have a
I know,
character-focused-
but I could imagine an episode of television that'd be incredible with Violet, like, just going across the universe trying to understand, like, dying and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think narratively this is an interesting move. This is like increase the drama ramp. This is a successful plotline, a successful character, ramp up the drama with this. I mean, like if I'm treating these like real people, like talk about your feelings, you know, like I really love Brion and Violet. I like them together. More importantly, I like them as people. Like, you know, just communicate, you stupid teenagers.
Yeah. I also, I really liked that Dr. Jace talked to Brion, like, this is your first relationship, you're teenagers. Like, this is it, like, the end.
That kind of put things in perspective, I think. Yeah, that's why I kind of said it, like, more than their specific relationship, it's them. You know, it's like, yeah, this actually, yeah, you're right, Dr. Jace. This probably isn't going to work out. And that's okay.
But I think part of it is that Brion realized that, but he still wanted to help her. I think that was part of it. Like, I think
I honestly think Brion cares more about Violet and her as a person and just his concern for than their relationship.
Yeah,
that's how it came, and that's because he's an amazing sweetheart.
Like, I'm kind of just more surprised that he didn't like talk to his sister about the news, and he kind of just left her alone.
I mean, I don't think Brion's a good brother.
Where's all the Brion?
No, I just don't think he's a good brother. I just don't think he's a good brother, and that's just part of his character.
Have we just not seen it, or is it not happening?
Like, after he saved her, he just kind of went, yep. He like wiped his hands clean and it's like, yep, I did it. I'm a great brother, and just hasn't really interacted with her at all since. That's at least on screen.
I could see how it would be awkward after what she was missing for a while. So I think that would be a valid, like, emotional thing to explore, but the show has just not explored that.
Yeah, it's unclear what they're going for.
It's like awkward and they're trying to find each other again, like, but I have zero idea if that's what they're going for.
Sorry, Allie, were you going to say something?
No, just that it's weird that they don't interact, but I guess they're leading up to something. Waiting to lead up to something.
I mean, I hope it does.
But with Tara, when you were talking about earlier, Sarah, with her perspective, like when she was freaking out or whatever, I assumed she was being controlled by the light to like freak out more.
Oh, you think she might have like something in her?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
This episode does make a point of showing the chip on the back of the neck.
That's actually a good point.
I think they would have taken the chip off of her unless she's something deeply embedded.
Yeah, no, and
I just thought back to sleep, so that's why.
But I mean, and also in the original Teen Titans plotline, they have stuff inside them too, including Tara.
Yeah.
Like, that controls them.
Yeah. That's the only well, not the only reason, but that's, like, it. I remembered that and I was like, oh. But they're probably not going for that now that I think about it.
I don't know, but that's a good point though, that they start the episode with that control chip and then we later have Tara acting kind of weird. I don't know.
I do think when you're looking at narratives like this, like the show's made a point of showing us metateens being controlled. Also in the last episode, we had them all being controlled by Witch Boy. Like it is a big theme we're going for here. It's not necessarily in service of a reveal like this. It could just be a theme of like agency and metateens, and which we kind of been doing all season, but. Like, you know, the way to culminate that theme is to do interesting narrative stuff with it. So I do think that's worth keeping in mind.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I guess we can move on to like the actual plot of the episode then, because this episode starts in Bunas, as I mentioned before, with Lex Luthor. Again, for some reason, the UN Secretary General is like super important in this version of the world, which is really crazy to me.
You're saying Boutros Ghali wasn't super important?
It was just badass.
I guess.
No thoughts on Boutros Ghali?
I like Diana's sister. That's pretty much it.
That's not okay. Yeah, she came out of nowhere. Has she been in the show before?
Yeah, she was mentioned offhand a couple times. She was.
Never mind.
She was mentioned a couple times, and she's shown she's the diplomat she's the representative from Themyscira at the UN. They have a representative in the UN in this world, and she is theirs. Troya. And the Atlantean there is the representative for Atlantis in the UN.
The Atlantean was the guy that looked like a waterbender.
Yes.
Yeah.
If anything, okay, Dylan.
He literally was just a waterbender from Legend of Korra. Like, he waterbended, he had the entire, the get up, and he had
the hair.
And the show also is animated in a somewhat similar style. I thought this episode was animated by Studio Mir for a while, but it was not, because they did the snapshots. It's a DR movie, but.
The way they animate Lex reminds me a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's similar-ish people. But it's I was just thrown off. I was like, are we watching Avatar right now?
I mean, it did feel like it. But yeah, we have some assassins here, and the outsiders come in and they help save people, but it's Luthor setting people up, and he's setting up for the outsiders to look bad compared to the Justice League, which is a weird thing for Lex Luthor to be doing in comparison to what he's done in the past. It's an interesting plot point. I think it's an interesting way for the plot to go. I think it's a plot point that feels very Young Justice in a way that that hasn't for me in a while. To have the heroes win, but Lex Luthor still win. This felt interesting to me. This was a nice wrinkle for me. Like, I was excited by this wrinkle when it started.
Me too.
Yeah, I agree. This is like a kind of a level 1 Young Justice twist. This episode is completely filled with reveals like this and differing motivations and people hiding things from everyone. I think it's like the big theme of the episode. This is kind of the first one.
But it works better in this episode. It
does. The whole episode, I think, is kind of centered on it versus the first impression. It's kind of just there at the end. And, I think the more interesting thing is the one at the end of this episode.
Oh yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. But I'm just saying, like, this set me up, this being like the first thing in the episode made me go like, oh, we might be going somewhere this episode because we start with this. This isn't like,
and it's also the first of a big Lex Luthor episode too.
Yeah. I really like this. I really like the setup. We also get the introduction of Leia. It like seems to be like she has mind powers or something. She was being controlled and she seemed to be taking out Troia with just her mind essentially.
Hey, here's another character.
Yeah,
it's
a cool
another character. It's the one they take the chip off of. She was one of the assassins. They take the chip off. They can't take the chip off of her, and they're like, will you let us help you? Yes. Okay.
Or she doesn't even say yes. She just nods.
Yeah. We don't need another character, but she seems cool.
Like, she's cool. It's just, why?
Introduce what happened to Fish Girl from last episode.
Yeah, we just keep adding characters.
Calder.
Yeah, why hasn't that happened yet? I was expecting this episode to be hot, shape of water, fish sex the entire, and it wasn't, and I'm completely thrown off from that.
Honestly, same, kind of.
Whoa, okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this character on the wiki to see if she has any history in the show, just to make sure we haven't missed her. This is her background information. Are you ready, Dylan?
The wiki, okay.
Okay. Emily Leah Briggs is Looker, a member of the Outsiders. She originally had psychokinetic powers, but was later turned into a vampire. I assume this is the version in the comics. Because that is crazy.
The problem is all these characters exist in other mediums, right?
Yeah. So. That is crazy. That is
okay, now I'm invested. I want to see vampires on this show. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Like, no, I'm completely invested.
I think we just spoiled everyone.
It's completely absurd.
Oh well.
Anyways, yeah, I think this action scene worked well. I really liked Terra using, like, little rocks. That felt very, Avatar as well. Using, like, very little material in her bending style. And it was cool. And we got to see, Savage. I forget her first name, but the daughter of Vandal.
Yeah, that's who I thought the person was a few weeks ago. But, she prominently featured in Evolution, which I think is the best episode of the season.
And we both agreed we both liked that. Cassandra, yes.
Yeah, so I was happy to see her again. I guess she's like learning the ropes of the light and is a potential important light person to come.
But I also like this because it seems to be further setting up that she doesn't get why the light's doing any of this. And it's another character that might be doing a heel turn. So like, we have like 3 or 4 characters now that might be doing heel turns, and it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know where anyone's going to end up.
I think, I don't know. I think that we'll do not that with her, but I'm not sure. I mean, she's been in like 2 episodes, who knows? But I mean, I think more of a vigilante or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, what I just mean, it's like, I don't think she's going to be evil at the end of this series. Like, I don't see, she just doesn't seem like evil like the other villains. But again, she did help with this assassination. And then the other woman here is, Lady Shiva, who's shown up a couple times. Like, she was in a fight scene or 2 on that island episode, in the previous half of the season when the proto-outsiders came and, like, tried to find Terra there. If you remember that.
That's who I thought she was, actually, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
She's just one of the people that trains a lot of the soldiers for the light. And she's one of the best fighters in the world.
Oh, yeah. That's who we saw her training people. Yeah,
yes,
I remember that.
Yes.
Okay.
And she was training Cassandra, too. Anyways. Yeah. So this opening scene, I think it works well. I think it's a great opening. We also have the setup for the other big plot point of this episode, which is Kid Flash getting hurt, but not in a way that really...
This is the funniest gag of the season.
Yes.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. I'm literally fine.
They mention it a third time, and it's like not in a place where he could have shouted it, but I still wanted him to just shout it from off screen.
Wait, when?
I think
they did do it 3 times.
I think in the news broadcast, he's in the cable news show. He's
he did scream it.
He screamed it.
I don't think so.
No, he did. Dylan.
No, he wasn't there.
Fine.
No, there's like another time.
No. Oh, so Dylan, there's 3 times he screams, and there's a 4th time that he doesn't.
Okay, there's a 4th time, sure, but I wanted it to happen again.
Yeah, I know. It was really funny.
This is the most distinctive Kid Flash characterization we've gotten all season.
It was so Kid Flash, like it felt so
shouting.
This was the most Wally this version of Kid Flash has been like the whole time. I really liked it. He just did.
It's a big Flash episode because we get actual Flash and then we get another older Flash and it
was interesting. Picture. Yeah. But I don't know. I agree with you. That was so funny, especially when Lex Luthor's talking to.
I guess it's not as it's the actual funny. The last episode credits. That was but.
This was in the body of the episode, which makes it a little better, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you could miss the other one, I think. But this one is in the body, and I think it works really well, especially when Lex Luthor's talking to the news, and he's saying, like, this one boy got hurt. And he's like, I'm fine, from off camera.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah, towards the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah, I just think this opening section is just really solid. Like, one of the most solid, like, sections of the show, honestly, of this season. Like, I just think it works really well. Like, there's some interesting fights going on, like, nothing too complex, but we understand what's going on, we understand the stakes, they're not too high, but enough that people could get hurt. Like, I just like this whole sequence a lot. Yeah, and then we move straight from that back to the hub, back to the stuff with Violet, but also we have the parents coming in and pretty much saying, like, hey, we're worried about you. We're worried about you getting hurt. And I think this is an interesting discussion to be setting up for this show, because I think this is a real thing to talk about with having your team not be secret anymore. Like, this is a real consequence of not being a secret, like, spy team like the original 2 seasons. These kids are actually in danger, but in a way that's public. But I think the kids also put forth a decent rebuttal to that idea. But I want to see how you guys thought about this. Allie, what did you think of this scene? What did you think of, like, both sides of this argument?
Well, it did feel season 1-y, but kind of necessary just because, well, it was done well, but also we just haven't really seen these kids be part of the real team up until this season. So it did feel kind of necessary, but it also felt kind of, not rehashed, but, you know, like season 1, because I feel like they did something like this with the first team, if I'm remembering correctly, but I'm probably not.
They definitely had seen. I don't think they did something like to this exact thing. I don't think you're saying that, but they definitely had scenes where, like, they talked about the dangers and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was refreshing to see the parents actually try to get involved, but I don't know. I didn't think much of it, but I thought it was done pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's about where I stand. Dylan, did you like the scene? Did you have any thoughts on it?
It feels, a lot of this episode feels seasons 1 and 2 in a way the show hasn't in a while. I think everything they're talking about was smart. I think considering, like, we'd seen one of the parents before, I guess. But is the only criticism, I think the dialogue was a little stunted. It felt a little scripted. It's like, okay, this, Young Justice is this. Sometimes it's like, this isn't like a real conversation people would have, but it's fine. It's like smart dialogue, but it's not like human dialogue, but it's that's okay.
Yeah. I think I agree mostly with that. Like, I especially felt it in the last thing where they all end with the same line when they're talking to their parents. Like, that's not how humans talk. Like, humans would not do that on purpose.
Yeah, I think it comes up a fair amount in the show, but this was the most blatant example of it. The show usually disguises it fairly well. I don't think that it's overall a bad scene though because of that.
I also think that overall the point is gotten across clearly, like what they're trying to get at, like that, hey, we're gonna get hurt, we're gonna have targets on our back no matter what. So we might as well be like figureheads for other people to essentially. And I found that an interesting point, and it was interesting to watch. And also, I remember Dylan. There was actually a funnier joke in this episode, but not in a ha-ha way, but like in a, oh god, Jerry got together with Beth kind of way. In that, Wonder Girl mentions that she forgot Victor Stone existed, and I'm like, you can't lampshade like that when, like, Victor was, like, the best character and you're just, like, saying, like, oh, we forgot about him. Like,
I watched the episode twice. I vaguely remember that, but I must have blocked it out from anger. But yeah, where is he? He's such a good episode.
Yeah, no. She literally says, I forgot about him, or I forgot that he existed or something. Like, and everyone else agrees. And everyone else agrees. She's like, oh, no, sorry. It's not Wonder Girl said it. Wonder Girl asks, where is he? And then someone else responds with, I don't know. He hasn't been around for a while. Or something like that. And it's just, like, infuriating. It's like, yeah, he's really interesting, show. Can we talk about him?
Yeah, who are you, Wonder Girl? He's more the character, I feel like.
Wow, rude.
He's
right.
Yeah.
Who are any of you? Who are you, Kid Flash?
Well, Kid Flash had a character last season, at least.
This season, relative to this season,
no, this
who
season
are you?
He's done nothing, except be fine. Him saying, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It reminds me of that scene from Korra where they're like, we're doing fine. Oh, I remember from the quote lodge in front of from the spirit world.
Where's the I'm doing quote lodge, but I'm doing fine is played throughout it.
Yeah, that.
Points. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Completely, like, deep cut there. I think the only thing left to talk about this episode is really just the ending, which is...
Well, okay, how about Lex Luthor and G. Gordon
Godfrey?
Oh,
I'm sorry, yes, that's it. G. Gordon, my favorite character, G. Gordon Godfrey.
The biggest twist of the episode, G. Gordon Godfrey turns on Lex Luthor.
But this happened last season, too. He turned on the villain in the last season, too, The Reach.
So does G. Gordon Godfrey turn on Lex Luthor because... He's like, he's fighting a losing battle. I don't want to be on that side. You know, like he's just going where the tide is turning. Yeah.
It seems to me that he wants to be on Lex Luthor's side, but he also wants to be on the winning side more than that. Mm. And that's why he kind of like talks to Lex Luthor that way when the camera's off. He's like, hey, it's just showbiz, but if you can do this, I can be on your side again.
Yeah, so Ali brought up the Trump comparisons this episode makes, which is a really good point. We get sad from Lex Luthor, I think, and then we get I have hotels in every country, I think Lex Luthor also. So, and G. Gordon Godfrey, you know, straight up Fox News parody, right? Yeah. So I think like this episode is very much leaning into kind of Trump comparisons and in general the state of politics. And I think the biggest difference is that Lex Luthor and G. Gordon Godfrey are both like so much like smarter and more calculated.
I was gonna say that.
Like the Lex Luthor to Trump comparison falls apart because Lex Luthor is just like a super genius, right?
And he's a good businessman and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's not actually broken.
Yeah. He actually is a billionaire in this world.
And G. Gordon Godfrey
is going to become the president in this season.
Oh God! Okay, let me get the So G.
Gordon Godfrey has been the president in other versions, for the record.
Oh Jesus!
They're definitely doing that. If they're starting the Trump comparisons. G. Gordon Godfrey is also like a really good Fox. I guess like Bill, whatever. He's not relevant anymore, right? Bill O'Reilly. I think originally he's a Bill O'Reilly.
But since season 2, there's been the downfall of Bill O'Reilly for many reasons.
So now he's whoever Fox News anchor. And I think also the big difference is that G. Gordon Godfrey again comes across like very smart and calculated, and it's like he's being manipulative, but behind it is like this incredible amount of intelligence and competence that is not present, I think, from these figures in our world, that we at least they're not perceived this way. Like clearly there's like intentional manipulation and intelligence behind that, but I feel like with G. Gordon Godfrey, it's always like, okay, he's like calculating first and foremost. Where these people, it's like these people kind of buy into the crap they're saying, and I think like this show kind of came back at a perfect time because Trumpism is like perfect for Young Justice to thematically tackle. This show is all about like manipulation of the public and deception, and I feel like it's always been about that. And now that that's like happening in our world, like to a much larger extent, with this presidency, I think that this show can just feed off of that, and this episode feeds off of it in the best way that we have so far. It really taps into themes that resonate with people because it's what's going on around us. Like I think like really what's happening in politics in our country now is basically a Young Justice convoluted plot line. And,
it is. Especially with like, there's kids who are being like essentially put in cages.
Right.
in
That's
the
true.
show.
That's true. This show wouldn't be able to tackle that till next season.
No,
so,
no, no,
yeah,
it's happened. The meta teams, they're the kids in
right.
cages.
So they're already doing that with the meta teams. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, they're doing it already. There's this whole group
Yeah.
of minority kids that are being sent through, like, to space, but they're being sent to a camp essentially to be hurt and stuff. I don't want to get too much into it. But
and in general, in the Young Justice world, there's like an evil, a super villain evil, the Light. Like the Light is just this force of evil on the world sent by people who are just evil and are barely human and are sent to do completely for their own interests. And this is like such a pessimistic view of the world that there's this like cabal of like horrible evil people that are trying to influence everything. And I think sometimes when things are going not that bad, that this is like, okay, this is unrealistic. In our current times, it's like, yeah, this is what's happening now. There are these rich Republicans that are the root cause of all this, and so it really resonates. I think everything going on with the show.
I also think it's a deliberate choice to have like we don't really see much of the Light besides Lex Luthor. I think that's really on purpose. They want to highlight like, hey, this is a human person doing this. This isn't like it is an evil cabal, but I mean like it's really just one rich guy doing this. And I think that's very on purpose.
It's good giving Lex Luthor more of a face, because in the past seasons we've had them literally be outlines in like a circle, and
yeah. And now it's just some guy really in the spotlight. He has power, he has political clout, he has a lot of money, and people trust him, and people like him. And I think that's important to show in the show and in like the world of in the world of the show and for the audience. Like that's important to have that be the thing, not like some alien. Like we had Vandal Savage earlier in the season, but now we kind of swapped that to being Lex Luthor, and I like that a lot more.
Yeah. I've been waiting for this to happen for forever, to be honest.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, especially if they go down the Luthor as president thing. They might not, though, because the show writers here have done specifically that before in Justice League Unlimited. But, I mean, it kind of is the only place left for Lex Luthor to go in terms of gaining power and political clout and stuff like that. Yeah. Thanks for catching that, Dylan. I didn't. G. Gordon Godfrey is great. Can't forget him.
Him turning on Lex Luthor, and then at the end of the episode, they're like, Lex Luthor looking annoyed is a minor miracle. Like, I think that was pretty good too.
Yeah.
I want to briefly talk about the dark web.
Right. I'm sorry, Dylan. Go ahead. Talk about the dark web.
So it turns out that the League planted a fake thing on the dark web for people to wait, or did they not actually plant something?
No. Lex Luthor planted something on the dark web.
Who did?
Lex Luthor planted something on the dark web that the League found, and it quote unquote hinted at that to them that there was going to be an assassination at this thing.
Okay, so Lex Luthor. Okay, that was when the dark. Yeah, so Lex Luthor planted a clue that the League found, which tipped them off to the plot line. But he was just manipulating. But then at the end, the League's manipulating everyone. So I'm like, are they the ones that ultimately? Yeah, but where are they planting this, and who in the League is like scouring the dark web?
I hope
like, that's what I want to know.
What's her name?
It's probably Batman, right? It's probably just Batman, like sitting at a computer, just poring over the dark web constantly.
Like, are Nightwing and Wheelchair Boo? Like, are they like?
You mean Oracle?
Who?
Oracle.
Who? Are they? Yeah, her name was mentioned, I guess. I didn't remember. Are they just like scrolling through Silk Road, like looking for tips? Like,
I hope so.
Who's doing this in the?
I mean, it would make sense for why Nightwing hasn't been in the show at all. He's just on the internet all day now.
Just like looking at horrible shit. Like, completely desensitized to everything because they have to look for clues on the dark web. Like, is that what's happening now?
I have never personally gone deep on the dark web. I've never done that.
Don't.
I don't want to. I don't want to. But I know, like, it's not good and it's not a fun place to look.
Someone's looking there and there's just clues being hidden there. Yeah,
apparently. Like, how did they sort through the bullshit on the dark web to say, like, oh, this is a real threat? Like, there's so much fake shit there. Like,
right. I mean, this is a reference because this is something you'll see from like the FBI is like, we found this tip off. Like it's trying to be like a modern investigative thing. The problem is like, this is like, unless they're outsourcing this is like a small amount of people.
Yeah.
Like, who? I feel like
The FBI has like a
doing
bunch
that?
of teams they can send out and be like, hey, we think something might happen here, but it probably won't. So they can have like 10 groups of people like all across the country like doing different stakeouts for things that probably won't happen. The Outsiders have one team. So
I
like,
just like the concept of superheroes interacting with like the dark web. Like this
is absurd.
Well, this show, okay.
But this is absurd I think in a fine way. Like this isn't like a bad thing. Like this is just kind of funny to me.
Yeah, I think it was funny.
Yeah. You kind of touched on it, Dylan, but we can lead into the league thing here, because at this point we find out that, we didn't mention the fight in Dublin because it wasn't really anything, for the record.
Well, I think it's interestingly how it was presented. They didn't actually show it. They just did the snapshots thing.
Yeah.
Which I think was pretty cool.
Yeah. And the fact that, it was another thing where the Outsiders found out about it from Twitter, essentially.
Yeah, but then turns out everything is staged.
Yeah. But I mean, like, there's not much here to dig into. It's very, like, it feels very strange when you're watching it before you get to the end. It doesn't feel very meaty, and there's a reason to that, and it's that the league set it up. They set it up for, Lex to be shown to be wrong about something, essentially. This was all that this was for. And it worked. It worked. The public turned against Lex Luthor. G. Gordon Godfrey turned against him, like we said, and it's just the league going behind the Outsiders' back again. Like this is the second or third time now, but now we've got to this point where Wonder Woman is like, why are we doing this? And I kind of have to agree with her finally. Not finally, but now I really do have to agree with her.
Yeah, Wonder Woman's like, you're fake news, is what she said.
Yeah, like, we got another mention of fake news. It's just like, is this really us?
Fucking handle that.
And I think
only Young Justice can make Wonder Woman say fake news. Like, okay,
Dude.
Young Justice. I have mixed feelings about this. The last reveal and this reveal, I have the same mixed feelings. Because I think that it feels shitty that the Outsiders, who I quickly became emotionally attached to, and just like, I'm just excited that the show is doing something so focused and it's fun. And it's like, they don't matter. What matters is the continued public opinion battle between the League, the Justice League we don't care about in the show, and like Lex Luthor and the public. And like, this is something I was saying, like the show is so obsessed about, like before on this podcast. It's like, why do we care so much about public opinion of the Justice League? And it's like, this is all just a public opinion battle versus Lex Luthor, and the actual interesting parts of the show don't matter. That's the thing that's hard to handle about these reveals. What I do like is that it's about like hiding information from the Outsiders, and about like just the concept of like hidden information and how that relates to this new team and how the different teams are interacting. I think like that's conceptually a lot more interesting of a thing to go for, but it is kind of a gut punch at the end of this episode, much like it was at the end of 17 for me.
But I think this one hits a lot harder for me. I don't know why, it just did work. Sorry, Allie, did I cut you off?
No. I feel the same because fake news.
Yeah. I do agree, Dylan. I love that Wonder Woman said fake news.
I hated it, but I loved it.
But I think it plays into like that thing we were talking about, where it's a story about Trumpism, in that like it's definitely her going like, are we really going to stoop down to their level? And that's a real conversation to have. Like, we need to win, but we need to not become them in the process. It's a very it's very modern story. Like
if you're applying this to the allegory of our world, it's what the end of this episode says is, you're posting on social media and rallying support, and like AOC posting on social media and like change through social media. None of that matters. That's all a manipulation by the real power players behind the scene. Like, that's so depressing.
Yeah, like I think that's part of it. Yeah, like that their point is that. Yeah, I can't say more than that. Like, it's kind of depressing. I agree. It's very interesting.
Which is, I guess, fits the show's MO, you know.
It does. But I don't know if it's saying, luckily I don't think it's that direct of an allegory. Like, I don't think it's saying stuff like AOC on Twitter is bad or anything like that.
I mean, I don't think it's a direct allegory, but I do think that the allegory is, there's a ton of stuff about social media and the we are all outsiders, and the end of this episode is like, that isn't even important. We're manipulating things behind the scenes.
Well,
yeah.
I think what the show's saying is that stuff's important and that stuff's good, but the people behind that, like the people who are behind AOC, are the people that are like, hey, you don't need to do this. Like, people already like these people. People already like the Outsiders. They don't like the Outsiders because of what you did. You're like helping them, like you're pushing them forward because people like them in the first place. And I think that's more what the show's saying. The show's saying, like, when you were genuine, people already were behind you. You don't need to go further than that. Like, you don't need to manipulate.
Oh, so you think that? Yeah. So you think this is So what I'm saying is like the episode is what it's presenting, and it's like, oh, it's all manipulation. You're saying like, yeah, but the episode is framing it in a bad light for the Justice League. Yeah, because Wonder Woman does denounce them.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we don't need to manipulate in support. That's what the bad guys do. We need to like actually be moral and genuine here.
Yeah, I think she's kind of saying like, hey, we can publicly say these people are good. Like, we can just say we like these people, and we don't need to be secretly on their side or anything. We can just be on their side.
Yeah, I think the question for me is, would the Outsiders have been succeeding in the same way without this manipulation behind the scenes from the
I don't know.
Justice League?
But I think the show says it would be. Because remember that first Twitter post that Garfield's watching all that time and he gets all those likes? They liked him already. They liked what the Outsiders were doing already. Then the league helped them.
For support for that, they've shown a lot of moments of the popularity, but they've also shown how what their victory was just set up. And so I think both points are things the show is genuinely showing, and I think this is basically the main theme of the show right now.
Yeah,
that we're discussing right now. This is the show's what the show wants. It wants this to be a question of like, could the Outsiders have succeeded on their own, or is it just because strings are being pulled behind the scene? And that's going to be the big conflict, I think, that's going to be addressed the rest of the season.
And do you need those strings to be successful against an evil of this sort?
And in a bigger thematic way, like what is the right way to combat evil? Is kind of what the show is asking. Is combat fake news specifically is what the show is asking right now. And I think that is really interesting.
That is
theme show to be approaching.
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about it, because like I did not like have all these thoughts when I was watching, but now that we've talked about it, like I've really gone like, yeah, this episode's really all about that. It's really interesting.
I feel like I just distilled where the direction of the show going into, and I kind of had that vaguely in my mind, but it's like it focused so much more to talk about it. But the show like has a singular direction that I feel like I just laid out like a main theme, and this is the first time I felt that way 19 episodes into the season that it really had a main theme. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Like, cause I think this is actually a really strong theme, and I think that unfortunately, like I think a lot of the episodes kind of play into that, but they just need to be a little more like, hey, this is our theme. Like it needed to be said a little earlier, I think. Because
it just wasn't focused, right? The rest of the season. Yeah, and now we're focused, and now we know what we're doing.
But I think if you watch the previous episodes of the season through that lens, I think it's clear, and I think it's what they're doing the whole time. It's just they didn't, like you said, they didn't focus it.
It's going to be interesting watching the season back. It's like we're going to see all these things that they're trying to do, all these pieces that they're putting into play, but it's like we're also watching a 15 episode setup. I've never seen that before, right? It's like that's going to be fascinating to look back on. It's like, what was the structure of the season? Like it's also like they were in such a unique position of bringing a show back after all this time and like trying to adapt a specific concept, but also like continue a show before, but also there's a big gap. So I think it makes sense that it resulted in a completely unique narrative thing that we've really not seen in much of media, like 15 episodes of setup. But I don't know. This season is such a fascinating media experiment, honestly. Like
I don't know if it's fully good, but I definitely find value in dissecting it.
I think so. And I think we're starting to see the big picture as we get closer to the end, but there's still also like, 7 episodes left. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited, honestly. And I guess like, I don't know if you guys have final thoughts, but I mean, I guess we can start wrapping up now. Dylan, you kind of gave some final thoughts.
Yeah,
Allie,
I think those are my final thoughts. Yeah.
Allie, do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts is sad.
Okay.
about all this?
Just sad.
Sure.
Do you have an exclamation point at the end?
Everything. I was happy with this episode.
Yeah. Cool. I think before I wrap up, I just remember one last thing. It's my non-binary corner. I want to talk about something. Brione specifically Violet calls herself girlfriend, which again, they need to talk about if they want her to be non-binary.
They really fucking
she's still non-binary, but it's like if they want this to be any sort of complex thing they're presenting in any sort of way, talk about it for 5 seconds. Like, can you spare 5 seconds?
Because the fact of the matter is, like, the last time I talked about this, like, it was someone else calling her something. This time it was someone close to her or herself acknowledging, hey, you're a girlfriend. Like, that's okay if you call yourself that and you're non-binary. Like, there are plenty of people who do that, but the show specifically said in the first episode of this half of the season that she's not a woman. Like, you need to talk about this.
It's not contradictory. This is this is terminology people use.
Yes,
but like just show her saying that, this is what's right for me.
Yeah, it's not contradictory. It's just frustrating in in the show that they don't talk about it because it wouldn't take that much time. It just would take a couple of lines of dialogue, maybe not.
We talk about a ton of other Violet stuff this episode.
Yeah, there could just be a line where she's like, I'm not, like, what if she just said, like, at that point, like, I'm not your girlfriend? Like something like that. And then, or like, it's just like, there could easily be a line here where she's just like, we're not fully connected right now, you're still seeing me as a girl. Like this feels like
she confirmed, or that does actually apply to her, that term, and she confirmed it. And I think like maybe
either way is fine, but
it doesn't
they need
make
to talk
sense in this episode because she's dealing with such heavy things. But it's like, okay, if that's the case, then just push that back for like 5 seconds before and insert it into a previous episode. You know, like I think you could have structured it in a different way.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like I think there's room in Violet's story for this, and I'm really upset they didn't because honestly, in her story specifically, I see so many chances for them to talk about this in an interesting way. Like, honestly, that was making me more upset. I think that's why I'm riled up about it. It's just that there's a lot of chances here in the way they already have the dialogue set up for her to talk about this. And it's interesting that they're not. But yeah, I know that this is something that, is a very narrow wedge of society that really understands and cares about this specific thing, but it doesn't mean that they should push it to the side.
They've also broached the topic. You know, let's follow through.
Yeah, no, yeah. If you're gonna mention it, it's Chekhov's gun works for like narrative plot points too. Like if you mention something, like there should be a reason for it. Why did she mention this if we're not gonna follow up?
I guess ultimately it's still a valid and important thing, even if you don't follow up on it, but it's like, it would be much, much, much better.
Yes.
It's like, that's just a very base level.
Yeah. I don't want to go into too much here, because there really wasn't anything in this episode, but like, it did stick out to me when they called her girlfriend, and there still has not been any further conversation about it. Anyways, I guess that's our episode. I really did enjoy this episode, despite that last little comment. And I'm excited for the next few weeks. We only have 7 episodes left, and I'm really excited to see where we go. What have we been doing lately? We just did a podcast on The Lion King that'll probably be up before this one.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, right, we'll see. But it'll be up soon. We have a podcast coming about,
There's a bunch of exciting stuff coming. Infinity Train,
Shira.
Infinity
Train. Yeah. Really good.
Yeah.
KO.
Okay, KO, that's also exciting. Also we'll be back in 2 weeks probably.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
This isn't the sign of weekly things, it's just this worked out for the schedule.
Yeah. And also because of just how the episodes are coming out, like we needed to do 1 week that was either 1 or 3, and we'd rather do it 1 episode.
This was a good week.
This was a great week to have 1 episode. We really timed that well. I hope, it worked out well. But anyways, you can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Phoenician, aka Fusion. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, and Michael. We already plugged some stuff, and so that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.